Again, GSU is reporting power outages throughout the area. We'll have much more on this weather system coming up in just a few minutes. Well, severe weather like we're seeing tonight is often a factor in car crashes. If you were hurt, how long would it take for an ambulance to race to your rescue? Some of those who answer your calls for help tonight say they need help. John Gratafiore has part one of a special report on Beaumont's emergency medical services.
How long have you been feeling weak?
He told her she's lack of eating.
3 days?
A third of Beaumont's paramedic staff has answered this call for help.
I tell you what she's been doing mostly. She'll eat, and first thing you know, she'll spit some of it out.
When was the last time she ate and then spit up?
Today?
Over the course of a shift, Med 1 can cover more than 150 miles, driving from one end of Beaumont to the other. It's the busiest unit in the city, the busiest unit of just 3.
If you look at the situation, how many ambulances do you think you need at this point?
It would be nice to have 2 more ambulances. 1 more ambulance would be real good. It would ease up some of the pressures that are on us.
And most of the time, the pressure is great. When the sun goes down, paramedics driving Beaumont's north end pick up a nickname. They call themselves the Midnight Express. All you have to do is spend a night with them to understand why.
Med 1, abdominal pain, 1054
Friday, August 11th, just after shift change. Paramedics answer their first call. It's 9 o'clock, and here's how their calls stacked up for the day. 9 a.m., 9:33, 11:05, 11:40, 11:54, 1:54. By day's end, Med 1 has answered 16 calls. That's about a call every hour and a half, and the numbers continue to grow.
For March is 887 total calls. In April, 899 total calls. May, 920 total calls.
And here's how the numbers stack up in relation to years past. April 1992, Beaumont EMS answers nearly 700 calls. April 1993, paramedics answer 747 calls. Same month, 94, 834 calls. And last April, paramedics answered nearly 900 calls. They have little time for rest.
Where were you hit at?
I was hit right here in my face and in my stomach.
With what? Hand?
It's up to city leaders to decide whether Beaumont needs another ambulance.
When it gets to be a matter where we see that we can't adequately cover, then of course we'll take whatever necessary steps are required at the time.
Beaumont paramedics say they're already there. In Beaumont, John Gratafiore, KFDM 6 News Tonight.
Now, by the way, the city does use private ambulance services for backup. Tomorrow night, we'll take a look at how often private companies are called to help you. And to rely on Beaumont paramedics to save your life. Would they be there? They're ranked as being some of the best in the country. But as John Gratafiore reports tonight, they're fighting budget restraints that could leave you stranded.
She's one that's sick. What's wrong with her?
This is what it's like to be a paramedic in Beaumont.
Okay, let's try sitting up first.
Joey Stewart and Charles Bryan are part of the Med 1 shift. They're stationed in the city's north end, but their calls have no boundaries.
With us out, Med 2 backs us up, and then Med 3 also backs us up, and then vice versa for all.
This is the territory they cover, and they're likely to run more than 10 calls a day.
Medic 1, Medic 2, Medic 3. We also cover this, which is the emergency district number 1. This is Northwest Forest, this is Bevel Oaks, and we cover all of this.
And they cover all that, staffing just 3 ambulances. Those ambulances are expected to run more than 10,000 calls this year alone, and the city's service is way below the national standard. According to the national standard, cities should operate 1 ambulance for every 25,000 people.
The nighttime population for the city is somewhere between 116 and 118,000.
That means the city falls about 2 ambulances short of answering your call for help. To make matters worse, Beaumont draws about 30,000 more people during the workday, which means your tax dollars are only supporting less than half of the coverage needed for adequate emergency service. Now city leaders must decide if that's enough.
We're going through this budgetary process right now, and we will always review that, but we'll also look at the fact that we do have private carriers, and we will also incorporate their systems to be just as good as our systems.
But the city only uses private carriers when its 3 ambulances are answering calls. That means when the units in Central and South Beaumont are running, Med 1 in North Beaumont is left to cover the entire city and designated outlying areas. That could delay response time some 20 minutes.
We have her on O2 at 3 liters by nasal cannula, and a saline lock is in place. We're going to have an ETA.
The American Heart Association recommends a 6-minute response time. That's crucial to a victim who has stopped breathing.
The taxpayers pay for a great deal of the EMS services presently, and we want to limit that burden as much as possible.
With the city running on average 850 calls a month, expected to answer as many as 10,000 calls this year, the question is, are you covered? In Beaumont, John Gratafiore, KFDM 6 News Tonight.
Now, paramedics are asking the city for another ambulance. At this time, city leaders have no plans to make the move.